To save my crumbling family, I dyed my hair black again and took out all my piercings. I pretended to be a well-behaved Omega and married that emotionally repressed, old-school alpha, but even after giving it my all, playing innocent, throwing out risque moves, he didn't show the slightest change in expression. So once the family business started to recover, I figured it was time to rebel a little, live for myself, and then file for divorce. Only, when I secretly got new piercings and tattoos and Matthew found out, that usually paralyzed expression of his actually cracked. He yanked my tongue to get a good look at the tattoo and pulled at my waistband. Mason, didn't know you were into pain this much. Ha! 1. Mason, are you seriously doing this? Your uptight husband hates this stuff, doesn't he? Aren't you scared he'll actually snap at you this time? My childhood friend, now a professional piercer, kept confirming before getting started. I flopped onto the chair, crossed one leg over the other, and said, relax. I'll be lucky if Matthew even bothers to look at me for more than 2 seconds. There's no way he's gonna notice. Even when I was stark naked and sitting on top of him, he could still calmly go through business reports, then tell me to get off. That's the kind of iceberg alpha he is. As long as I kept up the good boy act and didn't flaunt anything too wild, nothing would happen. See, he didn't even notice this one. I lifted my tongue to show off the tattoo I'd secretly gotten a few days ago. I've made up my mind. Now that our family's doing better, I'm filing for divorce soon. I'm done pretending to be this perfect little Omega. Screw that image. I'm done with it. Truth be told, it was me who suggested the marriage in the first place. My dad was a rough-and-tumble alpha from the streets, not the brightest tool in the shed, but thanks to my other dad, an Omega from an elite family, he'd managed to clean up his act and even brought his buddies into the legit business world. But as time passed, my alpha dad's possessiveness got worse and worse, practically obsessive. Eventually, my Omega dad couldn't take it anymore. He packed up one day and left without a word, saying he needed to find peace in the outside world. When he makes up his mind, even a house full of elite hackers couldn't track him down. And with him gone, my alpha dad started slipping back into his old ways. PR couldn't keep up with the mess he was making, and the business was tanking, bankruptcy looming. I couldn't stand by and watch, so I offered to enter a marriage alliance to help the family. Back then, I was dead set on getting Matthew. Everyone knew he was the most desirable alpha in our circle. When his father found out I was a top-tier Omega, and exactly his son's type, he practically wanted to hand me the entire company, let alone his son. But now I understand why. Matthew wasn't some chaste, noble alpha. He was just cold and disinterested to the point of being, well, physically incapable. That mountain of muscle wasn't for loving, it was for disciplining. I was just about to lift my shirt when my friend suddenly shouted behind me. I shot up from my seat and lowered my head like I was playing dead. Babe, no, it's not what it looks like. But the room was completely empty. I wanted to slap my friend right then and there. I'll have you know, I huffed. This is about maintaining an image, not because I'm scared of him. Yeah, whatever you say, he chuckled, barely holding back laughter. So, left or right side? I pointed. Right, might as well have some fun while I'm out and about. Once the piercing was done, I ignored his warning about booze and greasy food and dragged him with me to a bar. After drinking ourselves half senseless, he suddenly widened his eyes, staring behind me like he'd seen a ghost. Then he winked at me, trying to be slick. Oh, please, I scoffed. Even if that walking freezer became a monk, he wouldn't step foot in a place like this. Alcohol would break his moral code. I hiccuped, crossed my legs, and sank comfortably into the couch. I wasn't falling for the same trick twice. Oh really? That deep, low voice I knew all too well wrapped around me like a wave of cologne and dread. I opened my eyes, and there he was, Matthew, that painfully handsome face I could recognize in my sleep, looking straight at me, too. Crap, I'm so screwed. Without thinking, I tossed my drink aside and put on my best pitiful look. It was him. He insisted I come, said I wasn't allowed to go home if I didn't. Really, babe, you know I can't hold my liquor. One sip and I'm already, hic. Matthew gently pressed his hand to my cheek. Then he must have really forced your hand. Ha, your face is flushed red. Ah, well, not exactly. No way was I letting my childhood friend get chewed out by Matthew because of me. I quickly turned around, knelt on the couch, and threw my arms around Matthew's neck, blinking at him with wide, innocent eyes. Of course not, honey. I blushed because I saw you. I'm just shy. When have I ever lied to you? Pfft. My friend had to cover his mouth to keep from laughing out loud. I shot him the middle finger behind my back. Well, since it wasn't your choice, let's just call it a night. Put it on my tab. Matthew finally looked away from him and back at me, his gaze steady. There's an old friend returning from overseas today. Come with me to meet him. Oh, that's why he showed up in this kind of noisy place. Must really be someone important. Otherwise, Matthew wouldn't be caught dead here. He led me to a private room on the second floor. From the hallway to the room, the place was packed with someone's powerful, silver fox daddies. I didn't even know where to look first. My brain went phew real quick. After greeting everyone one by one, the guest of honor finally showed up. Matthew introduced him as Jackson, a race car driver who'd been living abroad for years, focused entirely on competing, leaving his family business behind. I couldn't help but envy that. It had been ages since I last raced, all because I'd been trying so hard to be the perfect Omega. But the second Jackson stepped into the room, I realized I was dead wrong about tonight. Well, aren't you Matthew's Omega? What's with the new look? The man standing in front of me, Jackson. Back when I was studying overseas, I joined a racing club. He and I were on the same team. He'd even tried to chase after me. Well, now wasn't this a disaster? Matthew's ever-sharp, negotiation-honed eyes quietly studied me. You two know each other? I stiffened like a board, instantly going on high alert. Yeah, we've met. Back when I was studying abroad, just bumped into each other at a few parties. That should be enough to clue him in, right? At least to defuse the situation a little. But of course, Mr. Emotionally Dense just pursed his lips like nothing happened. It has been a while, Jackson went on. But I saw your social posts. Haven't been racing in forever. Huh? Oh my god. Why is he airing my whole past now? Toy cars. I blurted out. I used to race toy cars. 3 wheels, 4 wheels, cute little ones. Holding a glass of orange juice, I quickly collapsed onto Matthew's chest, tucking myself into the blind spot under his arm. I shot Jackson a death glare and mouthed, "Shut up, dumbass, or I'll end you." Cough, cough. Jackson nearly choked on his own saliva and nodded like crazy. Yeah, the toy kind, like Transformers, right? I finally relaxed and was about to sit up, but because the right side of my chest was pressed against Matthew's suit, I accidentally snagged the fabric and pulled at the piercing. Ugh! The pain shot straight up to my skull. My face twisted as I clutched my shirt, mentally begging every ancestor I had to get me through this. Matthew turned toward me, eyes narrowing. What's wrong with your chest? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Desperate to shut down his suspicion, I smacked the sore spot twice and forced a strained smile. See? Perfectly fine. Healthy as ever. Yeah, right. I was dying. That night, the consequences of trying to act cool came back to bite me. My chest hurt too much to even put on a shirt after showering. But what could I do? I couldn't exactly walk around with that shiny, incriminating evidence out in the open for Matthew to see. So, robe half open, I hunched over and crept out of the bathroom. I even peeked into the living room to check if he was around. Of course, Matthew wasn't in his study. He was out on the balcony smoking. When I turned around and saw that serious face, I almost dropped dead on the spot. Babe, what are you now, a secret agent? Why didn't you make a sound? I tiptoed to the balcony door and mumbled to him. Matthew leaned back against the railing and gave me a once-over. Why are you hunched like that? What's hurting? What? I'm not hurt. Why couldn't we just drop this topic already? Frustrated, I huffed. Can you please stop treating me like a kid? I'm not a baby anymore. Ever since I decided to break free and aim for a divorce, my temper had been getting worse. Maybe it was the confidence of having an escape plan. Matthew seemed to notice too. His face was cold, like he was genuinely annoyed. Mason, even as your elder, I still have the right to step in. Great, now he's my elder and acting like a parent, just not my husband. They say love comes after marriage. Yeah, well, I'd say ours is gonna be a lifetime of polite distance. I walked over and yanked the cigarette out of his mouth. Babe, maybe it's time to quit smoking. Yeah, little kids don't smoke, and it's bad for old people too. Why was Matthew such a stiff old school guy anyway? That body of his was basically a crime, but he acted like he didn't know what to do with it. He looked so damn hot, but he moved like someone who'd had all emotion and desire extracted from his soul. Doesn't he know if you don't use the hardware, it'll rust? I glanced down at him and shoved the cigarette into my mouth. Ugh, cough cough. What the hell is this? Mint plus pepper spray. One drag and I thought my lungs were going to shut down. I shoved the cigarette back into his mouth, and of course, got smacked for it. Mason, he raised a hand, the motion shifting his robe and revealing those bronze muscles, veins faintly visible. Okay, I'll shut up. My eyes lingered on that chest for a second too long, fighting the urge to just bury my face in it. I waved weakly. I'm going to bed. You better come in early, babe. But in the middle of the night, the pain in my chest got worse, like someone was yanking the piercing all over again. No more. You're not getting paid extra for this, I yelled, grabbing what I thought was my friend's hand. Except, Matthew's voice rasped behind me. Getting hit? What are you talking about? Mason, did you get into a fight? Caught off guard, I looked up, and locked eyes with his piercing gaze, glowing faintly in the dark. Game. I meant, a game. I froze, tried to twist away, but something was pressing against me from behind. I'd been careful to keep my back to him all night, just to avoid getting caught. After all, he never refused me, but he never reciprocated either. No matter how hard I tried to seduce him, he stayed stone still. But now, was that movement? Oh no. Oh no no no. If we get divorced, who else is gonna give me this kind of gift? Matthew seemed to notice it too, but he didn't look the slightest bit embarrassed. It's fine. It'll go away in a minute, he said, turning over and going back to sleep like nothing happened. But I swear he was the one who leaned closer just now. Or maybe it was me who leaned in. Half asleep, I couldn't help but sigh. Matthew, you might as well become a monk for life. Once I divorce you, I'm finding 5, no, 10, alphas who make you look tame. 4. I woke up naturally and stayed in bed surfing the internet with 5G. Looks like our company is doing much better now. My dad even dared to hire a top-tier celebrity as the brand ambassador. But if that big, rough old man found out I planned to divorce amid this momentum, he'd probably skin me alive. So before leaving, I needed some startup funds, at least enough to keep me going until my dad cooled off. Guess I'd have to squeeze Matthew hard one more time. Holding a photo of the jewelry set I wanted, I asked the driver to take me to Matthew's company. I climbed onto the CEO's lap in his office. Babe, I want this, buy it for me. He'd definitely say yes if I just nagged him enough. After all, he hated distractions at work and never lacked money. Getting me out of the way early was the easiest for him. Out of money on your card? Without changing expression, Matthew signed some documents, then silently locked the door with one hand. I said boldly, the money on my card is from you, but I don't want to spend it. I want you to buy this for me with your money. Come on, say yes. Say yes. Am I not good at pretending yet? But Matthew just glanced at me and flat out refused. No, that sapphire is too flashy on your neck. It's not safe to wear out. Why? You gave me everything before. Exactly. That's why you're spoiled. Pfft. All excuses. They say when an alpha cares about you, it's like having mountains of gold and silver. But clearly, Matthew already regrets spending just 3 months worth of money on me. If you don't buy it, I'm going to cause a scene right here. His body tensed, and his eyes reddened slightly. Scared yet? Surprisingly, he broke character. Fine, then start. Before I could react, he ripped open my shirt and pressed his fingertip right on the piercing. The sudden pain shot straight to my skull. I let out a loud, ow. We froze, staring at each other. Seconds later, Matthew gently twisted the piercing with his fingertip. Mason, what's this? My mind went blank as I tried to jump off his lap. He grabbed me by the armpits and flipped me 180 degrees, now straddling him face to face. Seeing his expressionless face, I trembled like a leaf. When was the last time he punished me? At that banquet, I got into a fight with a longtime enemy, and Matthew made him apologize to me in person. Back home, Matthew had beaten me so badly I almost lost control. But a few days later, the enemy was in the news for using vigilante violence against rivals. Now Matthew found out I'd done something a bit rebellious behind his back. I knew I wasn't in for a good time. Swallowing hard, I nervously raised 3 fingers. Babe, I promise I only got this one piercing. It can be removed anytime. Liar. Matthew freed one hand, grabbed my raised fingers, and lowered his gaze. That tattoo, you got it too, right? Tattoo? He knew about that? No, I didn't get a tattoo. But Matthew wasn't interested in my explanations. He stubbornly checked my limbs. After stripping off all my clothes, he still didn't find any tattoo. You're unusually quiet today. His tone shifted as he raised a hand and pressed on my lips coldly. Open your mouth. 5. A few minutes later, Matthew was holding the tattoo on my tongue with one hand, pulling my pants waistband with the other. Mason, you like pain so much. Ha, want some belt spanking too? And no, with my tongue still held, I mumbled a plea. It's your tattoo, can you go easy on me? He raised an eyebrow, smirking as he rolled up his sleeve. Blaming me? Then you get 5 more. Cheater. Ugh, you bastard. I struggled, but the tight, shiny belt whipped across me without mercy, making loud slaps. 1, 2, mixed with my cries, curses, and pleas, plus his heavier breathing. By the 7th or 8th hit, I completely lost it. I bit down on Matthew's arm. Ugh, he groaned, his forearm muscles flexing. He grabbed my hair at the nape. Got a backbone now? Let me teach you a lesson. You still talk back after this? You hang out with all those shady people, doing these messy things. Looks like I'll have to make sure that Chin Kid keeps his Omega in check. The Chin Kid was my friend's adopted little uncle, a total psycho. My friend suffered a lot under him. No way. I jolted and released my bite, wiping my mouth on his arm. I made him do it. Don't blame him. And you know that uncle's a jerk, just because he's an alpha. He bullies him. So annoying. But I wasn't talking about you. Matthew frowned, growing impatient. Mason, I don't care what you do, and I won't restrict your freedom, but don't you know what kind of person your friend is? That whole area's notorious for trouble. What good people hang out at his shop? And he calls you a friend? Matthew's words came lightly but with an unchallengeable tone, probably the arrogance of someone used to being on top, and my own insecurities about our status difference made it sting even more. I jumped down from the desk and stood on tiptoe, pointing at him. Matthew, have you said enough? Yes, he's a thug, but so was my dad. You must be so embarrassed to have me as your spouse. What a waste of marrying a gentle, obedient Omega. Mason. Matthew lost his temper in a rare burst of frustration. So what? I tried to pump myself up by raising my voice, but my trembling gave me away. Don't think I don't know you've been secretly watching me all along. How else would you know what I've been up to? Matthew, I hate you, not the spoiled kind of hate, and you're not allowed to control me anymore. Matthew froze, keeping his composure and not cursing out loud. Yeah, he must be shocked to see me, usually so obedient, going crazy like this. While I was getting dressed, I glanced at his reaction, planning to bolt out the door soon. But surprisingly, Matthew waited until I was ready, then stepped out ahead of me and almost slammed the door right in my face. 6. The biggest unspoken agreement between Matthew and me was to give each other the silent treatment. He was already a man of few words, but now he didn't even bother with a single tone or sigh toward me. Still, he did give me money. How could I refuse? Not only did I accept it, I planned to use that money to fuel my escape. Matthew was right about one thing. Neither my friend nor I were exactly saints. Thanks to his paranoid little uncle, my friend's escape skills had become almost as sharp as my dad's. You're smart, knowing he won't suspect right away if you're with me, but have you thought about if my uncle finds out? I'd have to be trailing you like a shadow. Exhausting. He said that while casually scrolling through travel guides on a social media app. 20 million, plus all my hacked accounts. Consider it compensation for when he catches you. I casually showed him my bank balance. You've got experience, but this is my first time. But you know, in all those old novels, once an Omega sets the flag to run away, the overbearing CEO always catches and punishes them mercilessly. He'd better punish me to death. I took a big gulp of alcohol, but I'm not some novel Omega, and Matthew isn't a possessive CEO. He's just a cold-faced, document editing money machine. My friend agreed but kept looking at the back of me with a gossiping expression. He rubbed his eyes. Hey Mason. Is it my eyes playing tricks, or did I just see your cold-faced machine laughing and chatting with another man? Looks like another Omega. Cheating within marriage? Someone like Matthew from a noble family wouldn't do that. I felt confident about that, but when I followed his gaze and saw the scene, I couldn't help but lose my smile. The Omega opposite looked so gentle and well-behaved, a genuine long-haired beauty. Every gesture carried grace, completely unlike my knockoff version. Not sure what they were talking about, but the Omega glanced over at me. Matthew seemed to pick up on the signal and also shot me a quick look before turning back to chat and laugh with the other. Ha! What's this? Making a cricket match out of me face to face? Stop staring. Alphas are like clothes. If they don't fit, just change. Who says I care? I stubbornly took the suddenly bigger glass and took a sip. My friend chuckled lightly and pointed. Well then, put down the ashtray. I suddenly inhaled a mouthful of ash. Cough cough. I told you to smoke less and you almost choked me. Fuming, I insisted on waiting until Matthew finished chatting with that Omega before trailing behind them to head home. At the entrance, I angrily kicked off 2 pairs of shoes and stumbled step by step into the living room. Matthew was already done washing up, wrapped in a bathrobe coming out of the bathroom. He crossed his arms, leaning against the wall. So, was it someone else forcing you to drink that much again today? He'd pretended not to see anything all night, But now he was suddenly confronting me. "What's it to you?" I muttered quietly, sneaking a glance at him. Matthew knew I was intimidated by him, so he deliberately provoked me. "Speak louder. I can't hear you." That made me even angrier. I raised my head and glared stubbornly at him, as if wanting to shout out all the grievances I'd been holding in over the past 3 months of neglect. "Yes, I drank. So what? What's that got to do with you?" "To you, we're just business partners. Why bother pretending to be a husband at times like this? Fishing me like a dog, fun for you. Ha, Mason, how much did you drink to get yourself this drunk?" "I never." "Enough with the nagging." I cut him off and yelled irritably. I wanted a daddy-type boyfriend, but not an actual dad. "You don't even hate me, so what kind of husband are you?" "Divorce. I want a divorce." 7. It wasn't a rash decision, but as soon as I said it, my head started spinning. Giving up on someone you've liked for so long is cruel, but I believe time heals all wounds, and I'll find something more meaningful than him. Matthew and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau several times to file for divorce but never succeeded. Either he was too busy and missed the appointment, or we got there but forgot our IDs. How come I never noticed how forgetful this busy man is? It would be one thing if it was occasional, but now with the delay, my heat cycle was almost upon me. To make sure my escape plan wouldn't be delayed, I went early to a private hospital and got extra suppressants prescribed. That's when I ran into the Omega who'd been chatting with Matthew at the bar. Ugh, enemies meet again. Even fully covered up with no skin showing, he still blocked my way. "You must be Matthew's Omega, right? I hear him talk about you a lot." Wow, such a familiar opening line. So next, am I supposed to hear about how close they are and how we should all just get along, and that I should leave quietly? I sighed and quietly tried to walk past, but he grabbed me. "Where are you going? Do I have to report my whereabouts to you?" I snapped, pushing him against the wall. "I'm busy and don't want to hear your small talk about my ex-fiancé." "Wait, you're divorcing? Did you misunderstand something? Don't you understand? Matthew and whoever he's with has nothing to do with me anymore, so don't bother me." In the scuffle, I didn't notice Matthew approaching behind me. Right in front of him, I accidentally tripped that Omega, who fell against Matthew. A report slipped from Matthew's hand and scattered on the floor like falling petals. Coincidentally, I caught sight of a few key words: addiction to X, pheromone mania. Maybe noticing my gaze, the Omega squatted and glanced between me and Matthew. He quickly gathered the papers. "Sorry, I asked Matthew to come with me because I just got back and don't have many friends." Matthew helped me up silently, showing no surprise or anger at the collision. Not going to explain. Before leaving, I wanted to see Matthew's reaction one last time. No surprise, still cold and indifferent. "You already said it yourself. It doesn't matter who I'm with, so there's nothing to explain." He took the report from the Omega and turned to leave. What was I hoping for? Clutching the suppressants, I walked along the wall to the doctor's introduction board. So young, so familiar, the long-haired beauty. David, wait, that Omega is a doctor here. So now Matthew is graciously accompanying the doctor for a hospital visit. I've been with him for so long. Whenever my heat cycle hits, he disappears, leaves me with suppressants and a medical team, never once going to the hospital with me. What's worse, after that day, Matthew even started ignoring me, didn't answer calls or texts. 8. I was desperate to leave, divorce papers or not. Word had apparently already reached my dad's ears, and he was about to send people to catch me. Since Matthew refused to divorce me willingly, I'd just take his money and leave now. After all, after 2 years of separation, the marriage is automatically invalid. I arranged to meet my friend at the restaurant Matthew often took me to. I gave the reservation name to the waiter and waited at the table for a long time, but no one showed up. Half an hour later, my friend called. "Mason, where are you? I've been waiting for a long time." "I'm in room 201. 201, isn't it 205? I checked the room number and asked the waiter. After confirming, the waiter said, "You're right, but the other guest who booked was Matthew. He didn't seem well at the time. So after multiple confirmations, we booked the table." "Are you sure it was Mason and not someone else?" the waiter recalled. "Well, he kept repeating something like, 'Our Mason, what his wife likes to eat.' Crazy." What was Matthew trying to do? He must have been the one who drank too much. After canceling the meal, I went to my friend's private room and got straight to the point. "Any news?" "Listen, the thing we really need to worry about now is my dad. Matthew isn't answering my calls. I don't know what he's up to, but for sure my dad's coming after me." "Oh well, the arrow's already drawn." My friend pulled out a bunch of cards, IDs, and a new phone. "No matter if the king himself shows up today, I'll back your reckless plan. Just then, a loud commotion erupted outside. Listening carefully, it sounded like my dad's men were there too. Great, they're here to catch me. I hurried out of the room and slipped out the back door. Just as I took half a step out, footsteps quickly followed behind me. On the way to the taxi, I glanced back and locked eyes with that long-haired beautiful Omega. I really didn't expect this doctor to be everywhere. Mason, stop running, David shouted at me. What a joke, only a fool wouldn't run. I opened the car door, ready to get in, but behind me, David raised his voice again. Mason, please save Matthew. If you run again, he'll drop dead. Buzz. A sudden ringing in my ears. My fingers froze just as they were about to touch the door handle. It wasn't until a breeze brushed past my hair that my wildly constricting pupils cleared, and I couldn't even control the pounding of my heart. What do you mean? Matthew would drop dead? What do you mean? I rushed over and grabbed David by the collar, my voice trembling almost beyond breaking. You're lying without a plan, trying to trick me. Matthew is such a robust alpha, strong like a bull. How could he just drop dead? Lying to me is fraud. I'm not lying. David held my cold, trembling hand gently. That medical report is Matthew's. He's currently going mad in a sealed room due to pheromone overload and might very well die. 9. Consider it repaying Matthew for all he's done for my family these past months. Just consider it. I told myself that, but my body trembled uncontrollably and my mind went blank. Whether Matthew liked me or not, I didn't want him to die. If I had to, I'd force myself to love him. If Matthew was going to die, it would be in my hands. Even though I'd prepared myself mentally, I was still shocked by what I saw in the monitoring room. Matthew was locked in a cell made of thick walls, his hands bound by chains. He had a muzzle on his face, and his eyes showed no trace of sanity. David told me Matthew almost fainted today from side effects of the suppressant. Now, he craves my pheromones desperately. But why me? We don't even have a permanent bond or mark, David explained. For an alpha who's never had an omega before, even a brief exposure can cause dependence, especially with how highly matched your pheromones are. Matthew briefly exposed to my pheromones? I couldn't remember, but since it came to this, I had to try. David and the other medical staff monitored everything live from behind the scenes. Whenever I spoke, they'd cut the video and mic feed to give us privacy. If anything dangerous happened, a red button on the wall would trigger an alarm. The airtight cell reeked of tobacco, but not the kind Matthew usually smoked. I knew that was his pheromone scent. I forced down the urge to kneel at every second and slowly approached him, trying to emit just a faint champagne scent. Matthew sniffed through the muzzle, then struggled violently. Go away, get out of here. I wondered if he really had no feelings for me. That's why he resisted his nature despite such a strong match. Am I really that unappealing? Hurt in my pride, I yanked off his muzzle. No matter what you think, I'm the only one who can save you now. What are you waiting for? But Matthew's eyes were bloodshot, muttering, no, Mason's scared. What did you say? Mason cried, said he was scared, said he hated it. Suddenly, images flashed in my mind, probably triggered by pheromones, memories strung together. I remembered 3 months ago during my first heat, Matthew seemed to want to help me through it, but when he saw, I was so scared I hid and wildly threw things at him. Was that why he never dared get close to me again? I don't hate you, I'm just scared. I unlocked his shackles and whispered near his ear, but now it's your life on the line, and I will save you. I'm not afraid anymore. The moment I felt those big hands support my waist, I silently mouthed off to the flickering camera. Then the irrational Matthew pushed me onto the bed, covering all my vision. Our Mason, pants are no good anymore. Shut up, don't delay your treatment. Pitch. I lost track of days and nights. All I knew was that the only thing keeping me conscious these days was the thought that Matthew actually cared about me, that he actually liked me. I couldn't wait to sober up and properly question him, tease him, but the recovery was long and painful. By the time I was fully awake, the mess on the floor was already cleaned up. David said it had been 5 days, but where's Matthew? I lay in bed, weakly asking. I clearly remember we both. 10. David hesitated, before he could finish. My dad arrived, his already fierce face even more stern, sighing as he looked at me. You're still young, what's going on, Dad? Dad paced a bit, then tossed a divorce agreement at me. Here, the divorce papers, he signed them. You're free now. What? Who allowed him to sign that? I jumped off the bed crazily, shaking Dad's arm. Where's Matthew? I want to see him. Dad glanced at his watch. You won't see him. The 2 p.m. flight boards in half an hour, and it takes over 40 minutes to get there by car. No, I don't care. I'm going. I started putting on my shoes. I wasn't listening to any more advice. All I could think about was Matthew holding me and holding back because he didn't want me to be scared. I was wrong. I really knew I was wrong. It's true. You only realize the value of something after you lose it. After I understood our relationship wasn't just one-sided, all those little signs of his love were suddenly clear. The milk always warm. The blanket at night that no matter how much I kicked, wouldn't move away. The confidence I felt when I got into trouble, because he had my back. Even my unruly behavior was under his indulgence. I stopped caring about keeping up the good boy act. In pajamas, I kicked onto my motorcycle and sped off to the airport. Inside, I couldn't hear a single sound. I frantically called Matthew's number over and over, searching the airport for his tall figure, until the boarding announcement sounded in my ear. I collapsed beside my helmet and sobbed loudly. Matthew, who told you to leave? Wah, you bastard, you're so irresponsible, you're playing me. In the middle of my crying, I heard Matthew's voice close by. Mason, it had to be a hallucination. I didn't dare look up, paused for half a second, then cried even harder, but then the voice came again and again, until finally, Matthew appeared right in front of me, holding his luggage. Without thinking, I threw down my helmet and lunged at him, knocking him to the ground, like a dog reunited with its owner. I sniffed him. Husband, it's really you. Am I dreaming? I don't want a divorce. I don't want a divorce. Wah, if you dare leave, I'll. Suddenly realizing all my threats seemed so childish in front of Matthew, I pouted and looked at him with hurt eyes. Matthew picked up my helmet, lifted me into his arms, and had the assistant fetch our luggage. On the way to the garage, Matthew told me, his flight was originally for a business trip, but the partner abroad couldn't come back temporarily, so it was cancelled. But I didn't understand. He clearly confessed to me yesterday, so why was he still trying to divorce me? He obviously loved me too. When Matthew held me on the back seat, I still couldn't calm down. Husband, why? We're lying together, but you still want a divorce? He wiped my tears. Because I don't want to hurt you, don't want to see you cry. Like the first time you rejected me, I fixed his face with my hands. I already know. Those illnesses scared you, and since I rejected you the first time, you've been controlling yourself out of fear of hurting me. But do you know what's scarier than not being loved? Matthew looked at me seriously. Losing that love because of hiding things out of your own assumptions. I scolded. That's true for both you and me. Sorry, I wasn't thoughtful enough. If you really knew you were wrong, you'd cooperate with the doctors and let me help you, not bottle it up until it got worse. Do you know how many alphas your pheromones knocked out that day? They had to file injury claims. Matthew, by the way, how did you get here? Realizing how I looked now, I suddenly went silent. If he found out I rode the motorcycle here at breakneck speed, he'd definitely scold me again. I sat back down. I got tired from crying just now. You drive, we'll go back and fix this marriage. Matthew gently lifted me onto his lap. So you're the one speeding on the highway. Seeing no way to keep the act up, I kissed him to cover it up. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. 11. Limping back to the apartment with a bunch of bruises, but when we got there, my dad was at the door, and behind him stood my big, rough dad, face bruised and swollen. Dad, why are you hugging Dad? Showing off your love? As soon as I said that, my dad grabbed Matthew's collar and tore several buttons. Matthew, you're Matthew, right? I know everything about you too. Where did you get the nerve? I suddenly realized my dad had been spreading the news that his precious son was sold to an alpha to trap my big dad, who was at a loss. But instead of waiting for my dad's men, he got 2 big boxes of razor blades and those terrifying Barbie dolls he's scared of. Now my dad showed up, he'd definitely use those knives, stun guns, and iron rods to beat Matthew up. No wonder Big Dad wouldn't let go. The hallway was a total mess. My dad was clenching his teeth. Matthew couldn't fight back. Big Dad kept talking nicely. I hid behind Matthew, panicking. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Dad, Matthew and I are already divorced. Hitting him won't help. Though we hadn't planned to separate. Officially, we were divorced. At least this calmed things down. But hearing that, my dad went from angry to berserk. He almost dragged Big Dad and jumped on Matthew. What? Divorced? Our baby's better than yours any day. Who are you to look down on our baby? Half an hour later, after explaining everything, my dad finally let Matthew, who'd sworn on our ancestors, hold my hand and walk into the house. I really don't get the point of all this. If you want to leave me, you can go even if you get all the property. I mumbled as I walked ahead, not noticing the change in the person behind me, until that hot body pressed against me, warm breath brushing over my head. I turned and caught Matthew as he collapsed into me. Husband, did Dad scare your sensitive period back again? Don't be afraid, he's all bark and no bite. If he doesn't approve, he'll still drag me home, no matter what. He leaned on my shoulder, shaking his head, wrapping his arm around my waist as we headed to the shoe cabinet by the entrance. That's not the sensitive period, you forgot I'm sick. You? I looked up at him confused. Where's your usual cigarette? Suddenly alarmed, I hurriedly patted every pocket on Matthew's body. He grabbed my wrist and pressed me down without a word. Cigarettes? I'm planning to quit. Wife, you're helping me. I'd imagined this scene countless times, never thought it would actually happen, and be so hard to accept, because I said I'd find a better alpha than him. Matthew had fought me all night. He grabbed my neck, limiting all my movements, dragging me from the head of the bed to the foot. Why are you crying? I'm happy. Wife, how can you not smile when you look at me? I didn't bully you.